Okay, hi everyone. We are live. Hopefully third time is a charm. And thank you anyone who waited. We were trying to go live at 11. We had a few technical problems. I promise I will get this straightened out one day. We're joined by JP Nerbun. He's a mentor, a coach, sports consultant. We've had him on before talking about the parent-coach relationship. JP, thank you for joining us. Today we are talking about how to know when it's time to leave your club or your coach. So let's dive right in. I got my timer here. We're going to go 10 minutes. So that's not a lot of time. All right, starting the clock. JP, how do you know when it is time? When the kid or parents, the family is just not just unhappy, but struggling. Like, how do you know?
Well, I think we want two things out of the sports experience for our kids. The first being growth, the second being enjoyment. We want that personal growth. We want their athletic development. We want them physically active. And I think when it comes to the growth thing, I think, we can ask ourselves one question as a parent. Am I operating as a net or a springboard right now? And what I mean by that is, am I there just trying to save my kid from every struggle, every challenge? Or am I using those opportunities when my child struggles, when they face different challenges, whatever that be, whether that be they're on a team that's losing games by a lot of points, or they're not playing a lot, or they don't have a great relationship with the coach, they don't enjoy their teammates, whatever the situation may be, there's an opportunity to learn and grow from that. And are you helping them as a springboard there, or are you just trying to save them? And so you have to really ask yourself, because the reality is hope comes from the struggle, right? Our challenges need to be opportunities, and they're our greatest opportunities to grow as people. And so we want them to struggle a little bit. All right. I know it's not easy to sit back and watch that, but that's necessary for growth. The second aspect is the enjoyment thing. I think when it comes to this, parents need to ask the question, when is it emotionally harmful? And a lot of times we look back and we say, well, they're not happy. They're not having a lot of fun. And yes, we play sports to have fun, and that's really why we start playing. But there's going to be times where it's not fun. It wasn't fun to get up at 5 a.m. and work out this morning, but it was fulfilling. And we want kids to have that type of experience where sometimes it's fulfilling. But sometimes we have this chase. We're just constantly chasing happiness. And as we chase that, when we chase happiness, we actually end up just experiencing more of the things we don't want, which is anxiety, depression, and stress. Research has shown that college athletes, the levels of stress, depression, anxiety are only rising significantly over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And they're not getting any better from that. But it's that constant chase of happiness. That being said, there's a point where it becomes emotionally harmful, due to a certain coaching behaviors, due to other people on the team. Growing up for myself in high school, I had a coach that was a very emotionally toxic and very emasculating to the men that he led. And so much so that my parents chose to send me to a psychologist, not just for performance, but for anxiety and depression. And I wasn't the only player that he had sent to a psychologist for that. Now, was that too much? Like, should my parents have pulled me in that situation? And I think that's where you kind of get in those gray areas. If they had tried to pull me, I don't know if I would have accepted it, because I really liked the experience of being on the team. But it's definitely into some of those territories where you have some really hard questions, as in, is this the best opportunity for my kid to grow right here, or should we move someplace else? And so I like to see the parent, I think in this whole, and when you ask yourself these two questions, I think the parent needs to see themselves as a spotter, not the lifter here. And I like the analogy of, you're in the weight room, you're lifting weights. To grow, you have to struggle. But as a parent, it's very difficult to sometimes see when they're actually going to get that bar up or not. And you got to be there to keep them safe, to help give them guidance. And that's why I love your organization so much, is because I think the "I love to watch you play" statement is probably one of the most significant things you can tell your child throughout whatever experience they have, because you're telling them that their value doesn't come from their performance. And that's where, as a player, I struggled with my coach. And I know most people struggle. It doesn't just hurt their performance, but it hurts their emotional well-being, because they feel they must perform at a certain level to be worthy of our love, the coach's love. So, really, that's what you have to evaluate the situation. And if you have a child where he's not feeling like he's loved, or he or she are loved, then I think you got to start evaluating moving someplace else.
Well, it's hard sometimes too, especially when the kids are a little younger, you're not even hearing a lot of what the coach is saying. Sometimes you're hearing it from your kid. Sometimes you're not. My kids aren't super chatty. I can say, how was practice? And they'll say, fine. And then another kid in the car might say, well, but the coach, it's like, I don't get a lot of information from my kids. So what are some questions maybe, and particularly, like I said, for the younger kids who may not even be able to process it all that well, what are some things we could ask to find out a little bit more? Or do you think it will just be that obvious because they'll be that miserable?
I don't think it's always obvious based on just watching the child. I think you can also just tell by watching the coaching behaviors and watching the culture of the program. And how does the coach handle when they're losing? How does the coach handle when player doesn't play well? So I think you need to watch the coach because kids are great at masking pain, because pain or fear or any suffering is seen as a bad thing, that vulnerability. So kids try to cover that up. That being said, I think there can be some healthy conversations that just invite them to share their experience. Beyond how was practice today. Asking, well, what did coach share with you today after that tough loss? You got blown out by 5 goals or 30 points. What did coach share? And just trying to, and those type of things will help inform you of what's going on behind the scenes, but also to kind of maybe open them up a little bit more too as well. And I think if you feel like it's an emotionally harmful thing, I think you can approach a coach in a non-confrontational way just to try to get their feeling and their assessment. Like, what are you seeing out there, coach? Because from my perspective, I think my child might be struggling emotionally at this time. And a lot of coaches are going to be a little resistant to that. But I think if we phrase it in the right way where it's just, like you're just trying to get a better understanding of what's going on, I don't think people will be afraid of that.
I know, because that is a tricky thing as a parent. You almost don't, especially when you get to the higher level of play, you fear even being a possible distraction, or you don't want to be that parent. You don't want any negativity on your child. You don't even want to say they're struggling, maybe, if you don't have a good relationship with the coach, because you don't want them to be red flagged for anything. So it's tricky as a coach. I know in some situations, people have tried to go above the coach, or it's always real difficult because you just worry your child will suffer with playing time or with whatever. So I know it's tricky. But let's move on to the second part of this, which is how to use the challenge of a bad situation as an opportunity to learn and grow. I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. Yes. We have a comment. Okay. Well, thank you, John. That's a great comment. You said ask open-ended questions. So maybe, John, if you have a question too, we'd love to hear it. We'd love to get anybody's. Let's see, we have Mark Klitz. He says, I feel the culture is everything. I actually enjoy discussing and having the parents, Mark must be a coach, join in like we are family. I diffuse a tremendous amount of problems that way. So that's nice. That's a lot of the way your style is too. But all right, JP, we're coming up on, let's see how much time we have. Just a few minutes left. So let's dive into how to use it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah, I think from everything, when it comes to the skill development, if you really feel like a player's struggling at that or they're not getting enough minutes, is that there's always something that they can do more. So it's helping them move from the uncontrollable to the controllable. Okay, so you don't like your coach, or you don't like your teammates, or the culture, you're not getting the playing time you think you deserve. Well, what can you control? And so trying to help them move from the uncontrollable to the controllable. And they're really just trying to help them on those specifically is their attitude, their effort. Are they still appreciating the opportunity? Because even if it's a bad situation, in retrospect and the bigger picture of life, they're still getting the opportunity to go run, to play, to have fun. And the more we see that as an opportunity, not an obligation or some sort of thing that they dread, but actually just kind of find the opportunities for enjoyment, to improve as a player, to improve as a person, to grow character in that. So I think those type of discussions with your child are critical. I don't recommend getting too much involved with a parent as far as constantly feeling like you got to talk them to death on it, because we can do that as coaches and we can do that as players. But I think really trying to help them find that opportunity, move from the uncontrollables to the controllables.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I want to say at one point, and then we'll end this because the timer just went off. My little 8-year-old was trying out for a new team with the age difference. She had to jump up and none of her friends were there. And she was like, I just don't want to play. She was really upset about it. She didn't know the coach. She didn't know any of the players. She went through the tryouts, literally like tears peeling her off to go do the tryout. And she made the team. You know, she barely probably made that team. She's the baby on it. But the thing is even after the first tryout of having gone through it and us forcing her, which you're questioning the whole time if you're doing the right thing, the confidence she had that day and the next day, I thought to myself, if I wouldn't have pushed her, because I felt really bad about it because she was really upset, I would have robbed her of that experience to learn and grow and, you know, have the confidence that she could get through it. And not only did she get through it, but she's done great. So it is something, that balance of when it's, you know, appropriate or not appropriate, and when it could just be a growth situation is tricky to find. But thank you for all your advice on it. I think it's really helpful. And until next time, JP, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Asia.
All right. Take care.